Hey everybody, this is CelebrityLifeAndStyle.com. My name is Adam Wurtzel, and we thought it was about time that we featured someone that was extremely prominent behind the scenes. So you may have not seen this man's face before, but you've probably seen some of his work. He's a set designer. He's an art director. He is a mastermind. Welcome, Rick Bluhm. Rick, how are you?
Hey, good, Adam. How are you?
I'm good. Now, has anybody ever called you a mastermind before?
No, that's a new one.
I was trying. I always try to be good with the adjectives, and I'm glad I'm glad that one worked for you. So before we talk about your career, how did you actually get started?
I got started working in theater in LA, doing sets for a little 99-seat theater around town, and I got lassoed into a production that was being produced by a commercial agency producer, and she said if I did this gig for her for free, she'd get me a commercial, and from there my resume started circulating around, and that's how I got started.
So it really is all who you know.
Oh yeah, that's LA.
Yes, definitely. Now when did you make the move from theater to full television?
Well, I had been doing theater for quite a while, and it was right after that commercial that my resume landed on the desk of the producers for Funhouse right when they needed an art director to come on board, so it was really fast.
Now I work in TV, and it's always what I've wanted to do since childhood, and when I was a child, I kind of watched TV from a different eye. Were you the same?
Yeah, I was, and it's funny, the full circle of my career, I'm working in theme parks now, and actually when I was a kid, I was designing theme parks. So it took me a long time to get back to that point. But
and now you're working at one of the biggest theme parks of all.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to get back to the first show you ever worked on, and I think one of your most notable credits, at least to some people that are my age, I'm 25, was the kids' game show, Funhouse. Tell me about Funhouse and how your involvement came about.
They had just shot the pilot, and they were beginning to shoot the first season of Funhouse, and they needed help because things were getting out of control. The schedule called for shooting 4 or 5 episodes a day for 2 days a week, and then they would scramble and get the notes and the production ready for the next set. So it was a fast pace, and so I remember we were sometimes pushing set pieces out onto the stage that the paint wasn't even dry on them yet, getting them in front of camera. So I came on board to help that out, and the craziness ensued.
So the actual Funhouse itself, the first season, that was not out of your brain, but from there on it was?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the Sabatino Harris was a big production design firm in those days, and they had done the pilot set. And once it took off, then the art directors would come on and babysit the set, make changes to it, and design all of the pieces that played with it throughout the season. So in any particular half-hour episode, we had usually 3 new set pieces that were games and a ride vehicle that went around for the races. So we were doing a dozen new set pieces for every day practically, and then of course each season we would do the makeover on the set, and at the end of the first season they went into College Madhouse, the college version that played after Monday Night Football, and so we had to remake it all over into the college theme.
That was, I think, one of the first things that Greg Kinnear ever did.
Yes. That was back in the day.
Another tidbit that our folks at CelebrityLifeAndStyle.com will now have learned. Now, what does one do when they're told, okay, here we want you to design this full big house in the middle of a Hollywood TV studio? What's your first reaction?
It's crazy, and I had to do that for Supermarket Sweep as well. We built a supermarket on the soundstage. It's a big piece of real estate, a lot of fun.
And how does that work with actually loading up a supermarket when you have, was every single product a sponsor? How does that work?
Well, we had a lot of sponsors, but a majority of that stuff was actually just purchased. And a lot of it, like the soda pop and a lot of that stuff was sponsored in, but we stocked it for the first season on real fixtures and everything, and of course it was surrounded by a cyclorama and had a fake ceiling over it and everything. But every year when we'd go on hiatus, all that stuff would just go into a storage facility and come out again for the next season. And what's actually a funny thing that popped into my head when I'm thinking about that is that we had, of course, the Pepsi and Coca-Cola were sponsors, and they provide all the product that we needed there. So we stored it, and I think it was in the third season that we brought that stuff back out. Right in the middle of one taping, I heard this psh sound, and there was a little pin stream of soda popping out of one of the cans on the end cap displays. And within an hour, there were about 7 of those. And apparently that about 3 years is the shelf life of a can before the soda eats through it. So it kind of threw us into a panic in the middle of trying to break down that thing and clean it up and get it stocked up for the taping.
So your message for the folks that are listening to this is go into your pantry right now and throw out those old soda cans.
Absolutely.
I want to go back a year because Supermarket Sweep was already the 90s, correct?
Yes.
But in 1989, you won an Emmy. I want you to tell me about that.
Yeah, we were up against Price is Right, Pee-wee's Playhouse, a number of good contenders for the Daytime Emmy for Art Direction, and never thought in a million years that we'd get it. And so they had that, that not on prime time, but the other ceremony that they have a week earlier, and we were there where you sit around cocktail tables, and when they announced that name, we screamed and drinks got thrown in the air, and it was really unexpected and really fun.
That's fantastic.
And then I had to trot through the press area and get the picture taken, and I was just the first thing that I did was I beeline to the bathroom, and I went in the bathroom and to use the urinal and set the Emmy down on the urinal, and I just thought that moment was so funny. I think the press photo should have been in there.
There you go. It's funny because I wanted to know about all the behind the scenes of the shows you worked on, but that could be the most behind the scenes that we've heard today.
Yeah, that's about as behind the scenes as you get.
There you go. Now, another show you worked on, Shop Till You Drop. Tell me about that. Were you obsessed with shopping? How did this all get? Supermarket Sweep, Shop Till You Drop?
Well, no, it was actually the same group of people that were working in that. I got involved in the same group of production designers that were putting those kind of works out. They all came out of the same studio. And that season, again, it was taking an old set out, dusting it off, and redoing all the colors and loading it in. And that was the year that they put Shop Till You Drop at Universal Studios on the stage, which I think Fear Factor was eventually on. It was that live, the old Conan the Barbarian stage that they had. Yeah. So they would drag the theme park visitors off to be the audience in the show and participate in it. So I was working there several nights overnight getting that thing loaded in with its new colors and new graphics and everything, and it was weird being in that studio in the middle of the night when you could hear the animals from the Animal Actors show squawking around, and be there in the morning when the rides were firing up and hear the soundtrack from Back to the Future start rolling.
Well, I just kind of want to go back to Funhouse one more time, and for those of you who don't know, the host of Funhouse, J.D. Ross, he's now a massively successful producer. He created The Biggest Loser. Do you and him still talk?
We touched base a couple of times throughout as he was getting into that. He and Todd Nelson, who was also the prop person on Funhouse, became a co-producer with him on a number of shows. And it was crazy because I thought he couldn't get any bigger than he was in the day that Funhouse as the host. I mean, he was the #1 celebrity, especially for kids in the day, but he went on to become very successful as a producer, and that was a smart way for him to go.
When you take a look at your resume, Rick, it says you've designed sets in places like New Zealand, Germany, Japan. Are you living there? Are you a globetrotter?
Well, it's funny. The New Zealand set I did entirely, that was in the days when we were first really using the internet for communicating. So I did a lot of electronic drawing and designing for that, and then had to go down there to oversee its construction and its final painting and the taping. The Germany job was done completely via the internet and was handled over there. So it was really funny to see my drawings just become what it did over there. And in Japan, for the theme park, of course, I went over there and lived for a year and a half. So I've lived out of town to do a number of shows. I worked on the Lamb Chop's Play Along with Sherry Lewis, and we shot all of the stuff live in a backyard in Bel Air, or you know, outside, not in a studio, and then took reproductions of all of those sets up to Vancouver, Canada, in a soundstage to do all of the close-ups and all the stuff that we needed sound control for. So I was up there for about a month and a half taping that.
Sherry Lewis is a legend. What was it like working with her?
It was awesome. She was the most amazing professional I'd ever worked with. She was in her 60s at the time, and she could outperform and outwork virtually everybody on the crew. She was the first one there. She had energy all day long. She was doing cartwheels and everything, and she had a really, I think from her experience in the business over the years, she had a really good sense of what everyone's job was and what they could do, and she had a great respect for everyone. It was really wonderful working with her.
And I think that's important. Yeah, it's a very good point that, you know, you really, to work in this industry, need to know what the director is doing and what the stage manager is doing, because there's a lot of lingo that if you don't get it, then you're out.
Yeah, and the sound and all the crafts she really had a respect for, and it was funny because I remember one of the very first days we were taping out in the backyard there, the boom microphone guy had the microphone there, and she had on each hand there was a table in front of her, and at each end of the table with each of her hands she had Hush Puppy and Lamb Chop, and the boom microphone guy started moving the microphone back and forth between the puppets as the dialogue was happening, and director just cut and started laughing, and it was, her ventriloquism was so amazing that it fooled the the sound people.
That's fantastic. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, you had mentioned before that you're now living in Orlando. Fill us in a little bit more about what's happening there.
Yeah, Universal Studios has got a big project in the works, and I've worked with them on the Japan project. We designed when Universal used to be the creative department, which is kind of like their version of Imagineering, used to be housed in the Hollywood Park, and from there we designed the Japan park, and I went over there and oversaw the construction and the finalization of that. And so I've worked with them on and off on a number of projects, and this big one just sounded too good to turn to not to jump on board. So I came down to Orlando about a month and a half ago, and we're working on a project that's going to open sometime in the future that I can't talk about, or they'll kill me.
Oh, well, we definitely don't want that to happen. Do you ever kind of, because I worked in Orlando a couple summers ago, do you ever sneak off and just go and ride the Hulk?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of my favorites. And the great thing about being an employee here on the project is that my badge gets me in anytime I want, and a lot of times I have to just go in the middle of the day and go do that for research, do that kind of stuff for research at the park. And I also have the the annual pass for Disney and can run over there and do the same thing, so it's pretty fun.
So you've obviously done so much in your career and so much that we haven't even covered, but what happens next? What's the next 10 years look like for Rick?
This project is going to be pretty significant. It's going to take some time, and I think that with what's happening with both Disney and Universal right now, there's a lot of growth happening, so I think I'll be working hopefully on the next project, possibly an international park again. They're doing a lot of work currently, and possibly in the works internationally. So I would look forward to going and doing a project in Asia again, or in Latin America or Europe. I mean, there's a lot of things being speculated for both Disney and Universal. So
that is fantastic, Rick. Thank you so much for joining us, and definitely best of luck.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Hey, everybody, this is CelebrityLifeAndStyle.com, and just a reminder, if you are holding a boom mic, puppets do not speak. I'm Adam Wurtzel. Cheers, everybody. We'll see you later.